In his letter to the Galatians, the Apostle Paul wrote, "I have been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and delivered himself up for me." For more than 20 years, God has used Bill and Anabel Gillham to help people understand and appropriate the truths of Galatians 2:20. Through their tapes, books, seminars, and nationwide radio program, thousands of people have found freedom and fulfillment as they have learned how to let Christ live in and through them. Now just imagine allowing God himself to express his life through you in your family, your work, and everywhere you go. Join Dr. Bill and Anabel Gillham and discover why Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life.
In the session that you're going to watch now, Bill is going to share with you what he calls a Mickey Mouse illustration, a very simple story. But through this simple story, we are going to receive answers about the most central issue that we have been talking about. How do I allow Christ Jesus to live through me? And afterwards, Bill and I will be discussing some of the most commonly asked questions about what we teach.
A common thing to happen when you're counseling a person and helping them understand Christ living through you is for them to ask, well, when do I take over and when is he doing it? You know, how can I know that with confidence that he really is doing this? That's a really good question. And I think a good way to answer that is to give you a little illustration that I believe the Lord gave me. There's this lady who lives out in West Texas, and she's got a burden. And her burden is eggs to be cooked because her husband, old George, likes his eggs over easy. And if she ever breaks the yolks, why, he's been known to just storm away from the table and go to work without breakfast, you know, just leave her with all the guilt. He's a peach of a guy. And so every morning she gets up with the same burden, you know, eggs to be cooked, hoping that they're not going to be broken. Now, she doesn't understand that God has said, cast your burdens on the Lord. I mean, she figures that's for the big stuff, not for cooking eggs. And God is so worried about, he's worried about the political scene in the United States and the Mideast crisis and everything. He's eating those Rolaids by the roll and just can't figure out what's going on in the world, and he's sure not going to be interested in cooking eggs, right? Wrong. She doesn't realize that he's had her enrolled in egg cooking 2105 for the last 29 years. And she's been flunking the course every semester, and he just re-enrolled her in the next term. So let's look at her method. Her method for cooking is do it myself, okay? She thinks that she's supposed to do her best and then call on God for help when she hits a snag. Now, the desired result today is unbroken yolk, and so she's going to try her best to do it. And the actual result, unbroken yolk. And she says, hot ziggity dog, this is going to be a good day. And the flesh evaluates this little performance effort, and the flesh always walks by sight. And because her legs look good too, but because the eggs look good, why, she's saying, hot dog, this is going to be a good day. And look how God is grading her, flunk. Well, she hears his pen hit the paper, and she hears that big old F go down there, and so much like Job, she challenges him, sir, come down here and let's talk this over, woman to God. And so he condescends to come down and talk with her. He says, okay, what do you want to talk about? Well, I want to talk about these eggs. Well, what about them? Well, I thought those were pretty good looking eggs. I mean, George liked them, and the whole church knows he's got higher standards than you've got. And if they please George, why, they ought to please you. I don't understand why you give me an F. I mean, what about a C or something, but not F? And he would say to her, now, sweet thing, I gave you an F before you ever got the skillet out from under the sink. Because you see, I score you on your method. Your method is independence. Do it yourself. I don't look at the results to score you. I look at your method that you're using. What's your MO? Your modus operandi. And so she wakes up and smells the coffee and realizes that she's been sinning all these years, not only the egg cooking, but in many other respects, through independent, self-reliant living, cutting God out of the picture, thinking that she's doing him a favor by so doing, not realizing that she's been sinning. So she holds a good funeral to that way of living. So the next day, she gets up, more eggs to be cooked, but hot ziggity dog, look at the new method. Trusting Christ to do it through her. Now, she has exactly the same desire, unbroken yokes, but her method's different. Okay, now here she goes. All right, now Jesus, now you're my life, and you're going to be working through me much like the electricity works through a sander or a grinder or a mixer, and I'm going to be turning the egg over, yet not I but Christ. You're going to do it for me and through me. But now, Lord, this is the tough part. This is where it always happens. So take it easy. Do the best we can, Lord. Here we go. Over we go. Hot dog, Lord. Good job. Unbroken yokes. And the flesh says, whoopee. You did it right. Jesus did it. And she said, yeah, that's right. And God says, yes, sir. That's right. I'm proud of you. But we got a major problem. You're saying you're a success because the egg looks good. I'm saying you're a success because your method is right. Y'all see the difference there? Mm-hmm. And he would say, you're walking by sight. He would say, the egg is the object of your faith. Listen to that. If the egg looks good, then you'll believe. You're making an egg the object of your faith. Now, I understand your weakness, so I'm going to give you a couple of weeks to get your rocket ship airborne here. But sooner or later, we're going to have to teach you to walk strictly by faith. So that fateful day comes when he's going to teach his sweet daughter how to walk by faith. More eggs to be cooked, she starts off the day. But no sweat, Lord, you're going to do it through me. Whoopee-doo. 15 days in a row with no broken eggs. Lord, why didn't I understand this 29 years ago? I could have saved myself all those headaches. Okay, Lord, now remember, unbroken yokes. This is our goal. And you're going to cook them through me now. Remember, easy does it. Easy does it. Over they go. Whoa! Broken yokes. See that? And the flesh says, failure. Now listen, tune in here now. The power of sin working through the flesh says, failure. Now the power of sin is going to begin to accuse her and try to convince her that Christ has never been involved in this whole thing up to now anyway. It was just sheer luck and fantasizing on her part. So here it comes. Here comes all the logic with first-person singular pronouns from the power of sin. Oh, I took over and I broke the yokes. Now the horrible thing about it is I don't know how to go back and start over again with any confidence that Christ is really doing it through me. Because I was giving it my best shot. I used all the faith I had to believe that Christ was my life, but he obviously wasn't because he wouldn't let the egg break. So I don't know how to start over. The only safe thing to do to keep being a phony is just to give up on this thing. I got to go get me another audio tape or something, or get a book. I don't understand what I'm doing here. And God is saying, oh no, you're a success. I let the egg break. It was a test. I purposely let the egg break to teach you to walk strictly by faith. Now, dear people, you have no problem whatever when you pray and ask God, oh Lord, I turn this over to you, I trust you with this task, and it turns out well, you have no problem whatever praising Him and thanking Him that He did it, right? Mm-hmm. And you call that giving the burden to the Lord. All right, you do the same thing, and you give it your best shot. Now, don't hear me saying that this gal says, okay, Lord, let's see you keep these from breaking. I'm not saying that, gang. That would be testing the Lord. I'm not saying that. I'm saying when you give it your best shot, trusting the Lord, and it doesn't turn out well, then why do you insist on taking responsibility for that? That's not casting your burden on the Lord. Do you see the Christian logic in that? Now, God is going to grade you on method, gang, not on results. There's going to be a judgment someday for us Christians. If you'll examine it closely, you will see that you are not going to be judged. What you do is going to be judged. Your work, the results, are going to be judged. And what you say, that's going to be judged. Now then, that is either going to be flesh or spirit. It's a pass-fail judgment. It's either going to be wood, hay, stubble, or gold, silver, and precious stones. That's pass-fail, right? And God's criterion for judging you is going to be, is it of the Spirit or is it of the flesh? Only a work of God is going to pass the judgment seat of Christ. That's why the man himself is going to be saved, but as by fire, because salvation can never be a work of the flesh. It's got to be a work of faith. You see that? So, we all start out of the blocks dead even every morning. Whether we're cooking eggs, going to work, being a wife, being a husband, whatever it is we're doing. As we trust Christ as life living through us, give it our best shot, believing by faith that we're living in vital union with the God of the universe and doing it the best we can, trusting Him to do it through it for us. We cast the burden over onto Him and we give Him all the glory and all the honor. And we have entered into God's rest, like it says in Hebrews. And it also says in Hebrews, I fear lest some of you have failed to enter into God's rest. God rested from His works. Now you must rest from your works. So we struggle to rest. Do you understand that? We rest while we work. And we work at resting.